Okay, so you know when you walk into one of those fashion stores and you see these cheap watches hanging up on the wall, what makes them so cheap? And how do these compare to much more expensive watches that you might see in somewhere like a high street jeweler, for example? And are they even worth buying? To find out, I bought this £8 watch from UK luxury retailer Primark. Wow, look at this. We're gonna dissect this and see what you're actually paying for or what you're not paying for. To be clear, this isn't an attempt to expose this brand or anything like that, because really, this watch is only £8. This is more of a showcase of what separates a super cheap watch like this from something that's a bit better. Let's start with the packaging, because this watch takes the minimalist approach, to say the least. Yes, this watch is one that you can buy directly off the shelf, so I guess you don't have to worry about damage during the home delivery process. However, the watch is exposed to anything else that may happen along the way. It's literally tied down by a couple of zip ties to a piece of cardboard. There's nothing actually covering the watch. As such, there's nothing to stop this from splitting or cracking on your way home or bashing into other watches on the shelves. Especially when it comes to things like the strap, which are pretty susceptible to damage, it's not really a good start. In fact, let's crack it open and take a closer look at the strap. Most of these super cheap watches will have plastic polyurethane straps like this one. When you see the term PU leather, that's what it means, it's artificial leather. It may sound similar to normal leather, but just like cheap shoes, these straps will wear horribly over time and within a few months will be cracked and splitting apart. I'd say you're honestly better wearing a full silicone strap compared to these, because at least silicone will actually last a good amount of time. You'll also notice these bottom of the barrel straps will never have any of the quick release tabs and often can't be removed from the watch whatsoever, though that isn't the case with this one. Case construction is another area that costs are clearly cut on to meet that low price point. There's no information at all about this one, but it's clearly some form of really low quality alloy. You know what, in fact, it feels so cheap, it might be plastic? Either way, this is a far cry from the stainless steel used in watches, just a little bit more expensive than this. And this is going to sustain damage and scratches incredibly easily. In fact, it's already got a couple on while it's sitting in the packaging here. If this is alloy, it'll tend to corrode quite badly with water too. The overall shape and styling are actually better than I might have expected at this price. This design is clearly a type of Daniel Wellington clone, with every aspect of it essentially looking the same. It's that kind of fashion minimalist look. The case back is snap-on, resulting in poor water resistance. You really don't want to be getting into contact with water with this in any way. I wouldn't even wash the dishes in this. The dial itself doesn't look as bad as you'd think, though it's hardly a difficult look to replicate. I did notice the hour markers are applied, albeit extremely flat indeed. The hands on this watch are super basic, just squared off ones. Given the similarly short length and width, you might actually struggle to identify the time at a glance because they look really similar. One funny thing about this watch is the logo. It reminds me of another cheap fashion brand.
Gotcha, bitch!
Outside of the logo though, there's no named brand or anything like that on this watch, or any part of the packaging outside of the Primark logo on the rear. Protecting the dial is just a piece of plastic. Did you really expect more for this price? This will basically provide no real protection from anything apart from a bit of dust, even when compared to the basic and ever common mineral glass. If you catch this on a door handle, your watch is fucked. Powering this watch will just be a cheap generic Chinese movement. This quartz movement is what you'll normally find in plenty of watches under that £30 mark. These are produced en masse for the lowest price possible. And it needs to be in order to meet this price point, because you've got other movements used in other watches that cost more than this watch in its entirety. Realistically though, these are still more accurate than most mechanical watches, though tend to be a bit less accurate compared to better constructed quartz movements. The main issues I found with these is the sound and the consistency. Normally these are really loud and they miss the second markers over and over again, which I guess isn't actually a practical issue, it's just more of an annoying aesthetic one. In terms of where these are made, these are almost exclusively always made in the Far East. That's obviously due to the low labour costs. It's the same as with many different products out there these days. It is difficult to pinpoint the exact amount of care that goes into constructing them. However, from the retail price, it's easy to assume these are made by the lowest of skilled workers. So that's a quick summary of the corners that are cut in the super cheap fashion watches. Should you buy one? Well, at the end of the day, it is up to you. You can buy what you want, it's your money. But personally, unless it was fancy dress or something, I would definitely stick away from them. My outlook with these is the same as with loads of other fast fashion items. Just because something has a low retail price, it doesn't automatically make it good value for money. You've got to consider how often you'd actually be wearing it. The fact that this one's still in its packaging kind of speaks for itself. I think with these sub £10 fashion watches in particular, they feel so bad that you never really want to wear them at all. This makes them a bit too disposable in my eyes and just not worth purchasing. We really don't need to be spending any more money on junk like this and destroying the environment further. If you really have a strict budget of about 10 quid, the only watch I'd really consider buying is this Casio F91W.